New Guinea is a large island in the southwest Pacific region. The island is divided among two countries, Papua New Guinea to the east, and Indonesia to the west. Names. The island has been known by various names. The name Papua was used to refer to parts of the island before contact with the west. Its etymology is unclear. One theory is that it is from Tidor, the language used by the Sultanate of Tidor, which controlled parts of the island's coastal region. The name came from Papua Niue, which means not united or territory that geographically is far away. Ploeg reports that the word Papua is often said to derive from the Malay word Papua or Pua-Pua, meaning frizzly-haired, referring to the highly curly hair of the inhabitants of these areas. Another possibility, put forward by Solivine Jelpka in 1993, is that it comes from the Biak phrase Supai Papua, which means the land below the sunset, and refers to the islands west of the Bird's Head, as far as Halmahera. Whatever the origin of the name Papua, it came to be associated with this area, and more especially with Halmahera, which was known to the Portuguese by this name during the era of their colonization in this part of the world. When the Portuguese and Spanish explorers arrived in the island via the Spice Islands, they also referred to the island as Papua. However, the name New Guinea would later be used by Westerners, starting with the Spanish explorer Inigo Ortiz de Retes in 1545, referring to the similarities of the indigenous people's appearance with the natives of the Guinea region of Africa. The Dutch, who arrived later under Jacob Lemaire and Willem Schouten, called it Schouten Island, but later this name is used only to refer to islands to the north of the coast of Papua proper, the Schouten Islands or Biak Island. When the Dutch colonized it as part of Netherlands East Indies, they called it Nieuw Guinea. The name Irian was used in the Indonesian language to refer the island and Indonesian province, as Irian Jaya Province. The name was promoted in 1945 by Marcus Kaisiapo, brother of the future governor Frans Kaisiapo. It is taken from the Biak language of Biak Island, and means to rise, or rising spirit. This name of Irian is the name used in the Biak language and other languages such as Serua, Merauke and Warapan languages. The name was used until 2001, when the name Papua was again used for the island and the province. The name Irian, which was originally favored by natives, is now considered to be a name imposed by the authority of Jakarta. Geography. New Guinea is an island to the north of the continent of Australia, but south of the equator. It is isolated by the Arafura Sea to the west and the Torres Strait and Coral Sea to the east. Sometimes considered to be the easternmost island of the Malay archipelago, it lies north of Australia's top end, Gulf of Carpentaria and Cape York Peninsula, and west of the Bismarck Archipelago and the Solomon Islands Archipelago. The shape of New Guinea is often compared to that of a bird of paradise, and this results in the usual names for the two extremes of the island: the Bird's Head Peninsula in the northwest, and the Bird's Tail Peninsula in the southeast. A spine of east-west mountains, the New Guinea Highlands, dominates the geography of New Guinea, stretching over 1,600 kilometers from the head to the tail of the island. The western half of the island of New Guinea contains the highest mountains in Oceania, rising up to 4,884 meters high, and ensuring a steady supply of rain from the equatorial atmosphere. The tree line is around 4,000 meters elevation, and the tallest peaks contain permanent equatorial glaciers, which have been retreating since at least 1936. Various other smaller mountain ranges occur both north and west of the central ranges. Except in high elevations, most areas possess a warm, humid climate throughout the year, with some seasonal variation associated with the northeast monsoon season. The highest peaks on the island of New Guinea are Puncake-Jaya, sometimes known by its former Dutch name Carsten's Pyramid, is a mist-covered limestone mountain peak on the Indonesian side of the border. At 4,884 meters, Puncake-Jaya makes New Guinea the world's fourth highest land mass. Puncake Mandala, located in Papua, is the second highest peak on the island at 4,760 meters. Puncake Trikora, also in Papua, is 4,750 meters. Mount Wilhelm is the highest peak on the PNG side of the border at 4,509 meters. Its granite peak is the highest point of the Bismarck Range. Mount Galua, 4,368 meters, is the second highest summit in PNG. It is also the highest volcanic peak in Oceania. Another major habitat feature is the vast southern and northern lowlands, stretching for hundreds of kilometers. These include lowland rainforests, extensive wetlands, savanna grasslands, and some of the largest expanses of mangrove forest in the world. The southern lowlands are the site of Lawrence National Park, also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The northern lowlands are drained principally by the Mamberamo River and its tributaries on the Indonesian side, and by the Sepik on the PNG side. The more extensive southern lowlands by a larger number of rivers, principally the Digul on the Indonesian side and the Fly on the PNG side. These are the island's major river systems, draining roughly northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast, respectively. Many have broad areas of meander and result in large areas of lakes and freshwater swamps. The largest island offshore, Dolak, lies near the Digul estuary, separated by a strait so narrow it has been named a creek. New Guinea contains many of the world's ecosystem types: glacial, alpine tundra, savanna, montane and lowland rainforest, mangroves, wetlands, lake and river ecosystems, seagrasses, and some of the richest coral reefs on the planet. Prior to the 1970s, archaeologists called the single Pleistocene landmass by the name Australasia, although this word is most often used for a wider region that includes lands like New Zealand that are not on the same continental shelf. In the early 1970s, they introduced the term Greater Australia for the Pleistocene continent. Then, at a 1975 conference and consequent publication, they extended the name Sahul from its previous use for just the Sahul Shelf to cover the continent. Relation to surroundings. The island of New Guinea lies to the east of the Malay archipelago, with which it is sometimes included as part of a greater Indo-Australian archipelago. Geologically, it is a part of the same tectonic plate as Australia. When world sea levels were low, the two shared shorelines, and combined with lands now inundated into the tectonic continent of Sahul, also known as Greater Australia. The two land masses became separated when the area now known as the Torres Strait flooded after the end of the last glacial period. Anthropologically, New Guinea is considered part of Melanesia. Politically, the western half of the island comprises two provinces of Indonesia, Papua and West Papua. The eastern half forms the mainland of the country of Papua New Guinea. New Guinea is differentiated from its drier, flatter, and less fertile southern counterpart, Australia, by its much higher rainfall and its active volcanic geology, with its highest point, Puncake-Jaya, reaching an elevation of 4,884 meters. Yet the two land masses share a similar animal fauna, with marsupials, including wallabies and possums, and the egg-laying monotreme, the echidna. Other than bats and some 24 indigenous rodent genera, there are no pre-human indigenous placental mammals, pigs, several additional species of rats, and the ancestor of the New Guinea singing dog were introduced with human colonization. Human presence. The human presence on the island dates back at least 40,000 years to the oldest human migrations out of Africa. Research indicates that the highlands were an early and independent center of agriculture, with evidence of irrigation going back at least 10,000 years. Because of the time depth of its inhabitation and its highly fractured landscape, an unusually high number of languages are spoken on the island, with some 1,000 languages having been catalogued out of an estimated worldwide pre-Columbian total of 6,000 human dialects. Most are classified as Papuan languages, a generally accepted geographical term that a minority of authors hold to be genetic one. A number of Austronesian languages are spoken on the coast and on offshore islands. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers arrived at the island and called it Nueva Guinea. In recent history, Western New Guinea was included in the Dutch East Indies colony. The Germans annexed the northern coast of the eastern half of the island as German New Guinea in the pre-World War I effort to establish themselves as a colonial power, whilst the southeastern portion was reluctantly claimed by Britain. Following the Treaty of Versailles, the German portion was awarded to Australia as a League of Nations mandate. The eastern half of the island was granted independence from Australia as Papua New Guinea in 1975. The western half gained independence from the Dutch in 1961, but became part of Indonesia soon afterwards in controversial circumstances. Political divisions. The island of New Guinea is divided politically into roughly equal halves across a north-south line. The western portion of the island, located west of 141 degrees east longitude, was formerly a Dutch colony part of the Dutch East Indies. After the Dutch New Guinea dispute, it is now two Indonesian provinces. West Papua with Manokwari as its capital, Papua with the city of Jayapura as its capital. The eastern part forms the mainland of Papua New Guinea, which has been an independent country since 1975. It was formerly the territory of Papua New Guinea governed by Australia, consisting of the Trust Territory of New Guinea and the Territory of Papua. The country consists of 4 regions. Papua, consisting of Western, Gulf, Central, Oro and Milne Bay provinces. Momace, consisting of Morobe, Madang, East Sepik and Sandaun provinces. Islands, consisting of Manus, West New Britain, East New Britain and New Ireland provinces, and the Bougainville Autonomous Province. People. The current population of the island of New Guinea is about 11 million. Many believe human habitation on the island dates to as early as 50,000 BC, and first settlement, possibly dating back to 60,000 years ago, has been proposed. The island is presently populated by almost 1,000 different tribal groups and a near equivalent number of separate languages, which makes New Guinea the most linguistically diverse area in the world. Ethnologue's 14th edition lists 826 languages of Papua New Guinea and 257 languages of Irian Jaya, total 1073 languages, with 12 languages overlapping. They fall into one of 2 groups, the Papuan languages and the Austronesian languages. The separation was not merely linguistic. Warfare among societies was a factor in the evolution of the men's house. Separate housing of groups of adult men from the single-family houses of the women and children, for mutual protection against the other groups. Pig-based trade between the groups and pig-based feasts are a common theme with the other peoples of Southeast Asia and Oceania. Most societies practice agriculture, supplemented by hunting and gathering. The great variety of the island's indigenous populations are frequently assigned to one of 2 main ethnological divisions, based on archaeological, linguistic and genetic evidence: the Papuan and Austronesian groups. Current evidence indicates that the Papuans are descended from the earliest human inhabitants of New Guinea. These original inhabitants first arrived in New Guinea at a time when the island was connected to the Australian continent via a land bridge, forming the landmass known as Sahul. These peoples had made the sea crossing from the islands of Wallacea and Sunderland by at least 40,000 years ago. Subsequent to the dispersal of peoples from Africa 50,000–70,000 years ago, the ancestral Austronesian peoples are believed to have arrived considerably later, approximately 3,500 years ago, as part of a gradual seafaring migration from Southeast Asia, possibly originating in Taiwan. Austronesian-speaking peoples colonized many of the offshore islands to the north and east of New Guinea, such as New Ireland and New Britain, with settlements also on the coastal fringes of the main island in places. Human habitation of New Guinea over tens of thousands of years has led to a great deal of diversity, which was further increased by the later arrival of the Austronesians and the more recent history of European and Asian settlement through events like transmigration. About half of the 2.4 million inhabitants of Indonesian Papua are Javanese migrants. Large areas of New Guinea are yet to be explored by scientists and anthropologists. The Indonesian province of West Papua is home to an estimated 44 uncontacted tribal groups. Biodiversity and ecology. With some 786,000 square kilometers of tropical land, less than 1/2% of the Earth's surface, New Guinea has an immense biodiversity, containing between 5 and 10% of the total species on the planet. This percentage is about the same amount as that found in the United States or Australia. A high percentage of New Guinea's species are endemic, and thousands are still unknown to science. Probably well over 200,000 species of insect, between 11,000 to 20,000 plant species, and over 650 resident bird species. Most of these species are shared, at least in their origin, with the continent of Australia, which was until fairly recent geological times part of the same land mass. The island is so large that it is considered nearly a continent in terms of its biological distinctiveness. In the period from 1998 to 2008, conservationists identified 1,060 new species in New Guinea, including 218 plants, 43 reptiles, 12 mammals, 580 invertebrates, 134 amphibians, 2 birds and 71 fish. Biogeographically, New Guinea is part of Australasia rather than the Indomalayan realm. Although New Guinea's flora has many more affinities with Asia than its fauna, which is overwhelmingly Australian. Botanically, New Guinea considered part of Malaysia, a floristic region that extends from the Malay Peninsula across Indonesia to New Guinea and the East Melanesian Islands. The flora of New Guinea is a mixture of many tropical rainforest species with origins in Asia, together with typically Australasian flora. Typical southern hemisphere flora include the conifers Podocarpus and the rainforest emergents Araucaria and Agathis, as well as tree ferns and several species of eucalyptus. New Guinea has 284 species and 6 orders of mammals. Monotremes, 3 orders of marsupials, rodents and bats. 195 of the mammal species are endemic. New Guinea has 578 species of breeding birds, of which 324 species are endemic. The island's frogs are one of the most poorly known vertebrate groups, totaling 282 species. But this number is expected to double or even triple when all species have been documented. New Guinea has a rich diversity of coral life and 1,200 species of fish have been found. Also about 600 species of reef-building coral, the latter equal to 75% of the world's known total. The entire coral area covers 18 million hectares off a peninsula in northwest New Guinea. Ecoregions terrestrial. According to the WWF, New Guinea can be divided into 12 terrestrial ecoregions. Central Range montane rainforests, Central Range subalpine grasslands, Huon Peninsula montane rainforests, New Guinea mangroves, Northern New Guinea lowland rain and freshwater swamp forests, Northern New Guinea montane rainforests, Southeastern Papuan rainforests, Southern New Guinea freshwater swamp forests, Southern New Guinea lowland rainforests, transfly savanna and grasslands, Vogelkop montane rainforests, Vogelkop Aru lowland rainforests. Freshwater. The WWF and Nature Conservancy divide New Guinea into 5 freshwater ecoregions: Vogelkop Bomberai, New Guinea North Coast, New Guinea Central Mountains, Southwest New Guinea Transfly Lowland, Papuan Peninsula. Marine. The WWF and Nature Conservancy identify several marine ecoregions in the seas bordering New Guinea: Papua, Bismarck Sea, Solomon Sea, Southeast Papua New Guinea, Gulf of Papua, Arafura Sea,